Hi, this is David Carr, creator of the Toastmost platform for Toastmasters, club website hosting, and district website hosting. This tutorial could be useful to anybody who's running a business website, who is not necessarily a designer or developer, but who wants to be able to do some basic formatting in WordPress. Let's get right to it. One really basic advantage WordPress has over the FreeToast platform used by most Toastmasters clubs is that if you look at one of these websites on a mobile device, you'll often see squished images. WordPress does a good job of reformatting content. This is that same club website, but viewed in a WordPress format because they're in the process of converting over. And we can see if we switch to the mobile format, it is still preserving the proper proportions of that image. This tutorial focuses on the many different ways that you can use images in your web pages and your blog posts, from just inserting an image and having it formatted more or less by default to take up the width of the column, to having it aligned, having it shrunk down to a small thumbnail size, to applying a filter, maybe some rounded corners. And then there's some specialized blocks we can use to, say, present media and an image side by side. This is called the media and text block. We can have some basic image galleries, and there are lots of more elaborate image galleries that you can get by adding plugins, but I'm just going to show you the basic gallery block that comes by default with WordPress. And then there's the cover block. This is one of my favorites. This can be used in page templates as well as in basic posts or pages. I have this set up to stretch out to the width of the page. It has an image with text superimposed over it. And then we have a block of predefined content with some layout. So there are these whole layouts called patterns that you can insert into a page. They have some placeholder images, some placeholder text, and then you can replace all of that. Now, I'm going to provide you with an opportunity to edit this page. You're going to be able to go in and edit a version of this page, but it's going to be your own private copy of it, your own virtual copy of it. So when you come to this post, I want you to click on the button that says Go to Playground. And this is actually a WordPress plugin that I recently developed for my own purposes to do technology demos on WordPress specifically. So it takes a few seconds to load up, but now here I do have a copy of basically the same page. We can see that the button's not appearing there, but all the rest of the stuff is loaded into this page, and we can go through and see how some of this was set up. So I'm going to go up to the top, as it tells me right here, and click on Edit Page. So this black bar across the top are options that you will see when you're logged in as the editor or administrator of the website. You go to Edit Page, and we have an option to go in and start to work with the text and images on this page. So what we want to really do is add our own wonderful images. So let's start by doing that. How do you add a basic image to the page? So I'm going to go to a blank line. Now, there I was able to just hit enter at the end of a headline. Sometimes if you have, say, two images butting up against each other, you may also find it's useful to use these options in here that say add before or add after, just to open up a little bit of space where you can insert something. And here then I would go to add block. And what kind of block do I want to add? I'm going to add an image. And actually there are a bunch of different image blocks that we'll already see here, some of which I've mentioned already. But we'll add just a basic image. So it tells me I can either upload or choose from the media library, which are things that are uploaded previously. Again, this is a brand new virtual copy, so there's not a lot in the media library. We're going to upload something. So I have a folder of images that are related to different aspects of public speaking. We can upload this one, and it will be loaded into the page. And again, by default, it's going to take up the whole width, and it's going to be the original proportions of that image. But we can actually make some modifications right here within WordPress. Now, if you're going to do some more elaborate cropping of your image or resizing of your image, there are free tools to do that for both Mac and Windows. And you can also use Google Photos even on your phone to do some initial image manipulation before you upload anything. But assuming that we're just going to work with these images as is, we have some options here. So again, if you've seen any of my previous tutorials, you know that WordPress is organized around what's called the block editor. So each different type of content block has its own properties. So we can see those properties in the sidebar. There's a blank for alternative text, where we can add something for readers for the blind, or actually search engines also will look at alternative text for clues about what that image is. We can decide to actually reformat that from its original proportions to be square or to be tall, but we'll stick with original. And we could either have the full-size image as it was originally uploaded. There's a large version, a medium version. So the medium version is about like that. The thumbnail is a little squared off version. And you can see down here I have a thumbnail, and this one I've specified should be aligned off to the right of the text. So actually, if we took off that formatting, we would see the image right before these couple of paragraphs. But I can align it to the right, or I could align it to the left. It's just a way of sort of notching the image in next to some text. We have options here to make this wider. So a great big picture of that image. It looks like it's not very high resolution, so that wouldn't look that great. Especially, was that the squared off version? It might be. Oh, actually, this is a low res version that was loaded in. But let's look at our microphone here. We could take that and make that wide width, and that still looks pretty good. We could say that it's going to be full width, and it will stretch out to the full proportions of the page. Or we could go back to making it more just kind of regular. Oh, and that was the thumbnail image. That's part of why it didn't look so great when I made it larger. Let's see. Try this again. Yeah, wide width and even full width. We could save that and go out and look at the site, and we would see this great big microphone in the middle of our page. So I mentioned we can have a few different filters available. So these are some special effects that are available. I encourage you not to go crazy with using special effects on your site, but if you come up with something that you decide is attractive, it's available for you to use. So these are filter effects where we can have different colors applied, some lighter, some darker. There are some presets here, but I could also choose a different color here. So maybe I want to make that blue. And it's applying a gradient of blue to white here. So we could also change the highlight color, which right now is white, to be yellow. Does that look great? Some of these don't work at all. So you can experiment with these things and see if they're useful. If it's a great effect, good. If not, you can clear it all away and put it back to normal. And there was also an option with this particular image format to have either the default squared off version of the image or to have one with slightly rounded corners. Some of these things are a little bit variable depending on which theme you're using, but the themes available on Toastmost to new sites all would have those options. As I mentioned, the media and text block is specifically for presenting media and text side by side. So I've talked a little bit in other tutorials about container blocks, such as columns that you can use to do layouts. This is sort of a pre-built one, and it is set up so that you can decide that either the image should be left or the image to the right. You can make some basic changes in here. So this is a headline over here, but it could be a whole paragraph of text. And again, let's add one in from scratch just to see how this works. Media and text. I can either upload or choose from my library, and I will upload something. And so this is a What's Your Story graphic that I got from somewhere or other. And then we can insert whatever content that we want to go over here on the right. And so by default, it's just a paragraph, but I can make it a heading. And we, again, this little half circle over here is always for styling options that are available for this block of content. So we could decide that we want to have a yellow background behind the whole thing. And then maybe we'll add a little bit of space to the top and the bottom and the left and the right, just so that that accent color is wrapped around it. And by the way, if you don't recognize it, this set of text colors, these are all Toastmasters brand sanctioned colors. So if we wanted to change the background to Loyal Blue and change the text color to white, actually I think I have to apply the white specifically to the headline. So again, another effect that we could choose, another basic manipulation that you've got available to you here. And then this is a whole image gallery. When you add a gallery, it gives you the option to add a bunch of different images and then present them in a basic grid layout. Now I think this works a little bit better actually if you upload the images first and then you can just pick them from your media gallery. And so here are the pictures of the Toastmasters District 47 trio. If I wanted to insert those three, they would come in here side by side. And then there is room to add a caption, add their names underneath, which you might want to do, maybe a link to a page with more about that person, or maybe this is just on the leadership page where you have biographies of each of them. In this version down here, I actually did provide some styling for the overall section. So there is a gradient background with that brownish red color. And there's some padding around it and some slightly rounded corners. Now, when you get down to the cover block example, actually you're going to have to click on this button that says Attempt Recovery. There's some weird glitch that's happening when this is loaded into the virtual environment. Don't worry about it too much other than that. But we can see that the cover block is loaded in here. When I click on the background, I get the properties of the overall block. If I wanted to replace this image with some other image, I can click on Replace. And that's true of any of these examples that you see in here. If I want to replace this image, maybe we have a change in personnel, I would select the image and then click on Replace, and I can upload a new one. So we can do that with this background image here. We can upload something completely different. And then based on the image, we might choose to change the color. So this was in here as a headline. It could be a headline with a link. It could be a number of other different things. But depending on what the rest of the image is, we might choose to change what the color of the headline should be. We're trying to make sure that it contrasts adequately. Sometimes just white will work. Actually, that white probably looks the best of the ones that we've tried here. But this is a container. You could include a paragraph after this. You could include even another image that is superimposed over the background image. And I'll show you a different use of this. This is from a client website. These are all little cover images that are formatted as part of the page template. And so if I click through to one of these events, we see this as the banner image across the top. And then down here we have the rest of the content. And this is actually set up in the page template. So if I went into Edit Site, which is what you use to edit your design, we'll see that there is a placeholder here for the image, and the image is actually set to be just the featured image for that document. And then there's a placeholder for where the main content goes. So it's going to have the title and optionally a subtitle. And if we go into this event, we can see the place for setting the featured image, which is common in many page and post templates, in the upper right-hand corner. So I could replace that with something else if I needed. But this tutorial is mostly about how you would format your own special pages. Now, one other option is you can insert these whole pre-built layouts. These are known as patterns in WordPress. And the idea is that this is a professionally designed layout. It has some placeholder content in it. But again, we can come in and replace any of these elements. So if we wanted to have a different image in this spot, we can upload something from Skull and Crossbones. All right, maybe that's not what you would want in that spot on a Toastmasters website. But you can insert whatever you want to replace these default images, and the same with the text. Now, the way that you get one of these is explained down here. To insert patterns, click on the plus button in the upper left-hand corner. So instead of using this plus button for add a block, I'm going to go into the upper left corner and click here. This gives me some options, including all these different patterns. Now, there is also an option you can search for some open source images, and sometimes these can be useful to use. So these are things that either are in your media library you can grab, or things that are public domain from the web, like this picture of the moon taken from a moon lander. But the patterns in here are categorized into different sections. And so we'll see some of the ones that, this is the one that I used as the starting point here. But we could also choose this one. And again, it inserts a whole bunch of content here. This is all just placeholders to start, but then we can fill it in with our own content however we like. So it's a pre-built design, but it's customizable so that you can make it speak to the messages and the images that you want to highlight. So I hope this gives you a taste of a lot of the different things that you can do within WordPress to make your pages fancier and hopefully also more meaningful for your members, for the people who need to learn about everything that you can offer.